computer. Then you will be taking with all these particular advanced level of the programs that you will be taking with mentioning about window handlers. And then we got web table, which you will be taking with web table. Now, continued with the same, your understanding in taking care about Excel. I mean, with the help of the Selenium, how we got understand to get automate different kind of the functionalities similar to that similar to that need to be get take care about similar to that need to be get take care about in communicating with Excel file also, so that will understand. And after that we need to be get take care about in having with screenshot. I mean, if we want to be get take with screenshot, how we can take with the screenshot, that program need to be get understand. After screenshot, after screenshot, we need to be get understand in taking care about drag and drop. I mean, if we just look into all these particular individual syntaxes, we need to be get comfortable in taking care about all these particular syntaxes. So as a automation tester, at any cost, you need to be get comfortable how we can get automate all these particular respective functionalities. Along with these particular things, along with these particular things, we need to be get understand about how we can write some logic related to this particular Selenium program. I mean, you're getting comfortable with the syntaxes. Along with these particular syntaxes, if you want to be get write some logics, how exactly we can write it, so that we'll be discussing it. So by that you will be getting stopping with working with all the individual program, and after that we need to be get started with another most important concept that we will be mentioning about automation frameworks here. So our main target to get comfortable, our main target is to get comfortable in working with automation frameworks. If we want to be get if you want to be get comfortable with automation frameworks, if you want to be get comfortable with automation frameworks, then first you need to be very clear about all these particular individual syntaxes. At any cost, you guys need to take the practice. So that is what you guys need to be get spend with the more time in doing with the practice of taking care about all the syntaxes. Because when you are working with automation frameworks, it's not like any new thing you will be doing. Whatever all these syntaxes are there, will combine all these particular syntaxes and will start working with automation frameworks. So because of that, I'm clearly saying that please spend with the more time in taking care about all the syntaxes. Then only your concept of automation framework will become an easy to understand. Otherwise, definitely you will face the difficulties while starting with automation framework. So take care about in doing with all the practice, take care about in doing with all these particular practice here. Okay. In all these things, we done up to web table. Now we need to begin taking care about in working with Excel. Okay. Now let's understand how exactly we can work with Excel. To get work with the Excel, we are taking with Excel file. Excel file need to be created manually. Excel file need to be get created manually. Just we are trying to understand that how exactly we can read the data, how exactly we can read the data from Excel. That is what we are trying to get understand. Now let's see that the syntax to be followed or the standards to be followed in reading the data from Excel. Okay. For that, further, if we consider this particular Excel file, can we consider this is one particular cell? According to the Excel, can we consider this is one particular cell? Okay. And what about this particular one? Cell. What about this particular one? Cell. What about this particular one? Cell. Everything, everything is considered as a one particular cell. Everything is considered as a one particular cell here. While working with the Excel file, while working with the Excel file, everything consider as a one particular cell. Now, while doing the programming, we need to be get, while doing the programming, we need to be get taking care about, while doing the programming, we need to be get taking care about in having that particular respective cell. We need to get, we need to get identify. We need to get identify that particular cell. So how we can identify the particular cell? Further, further in Java, not Selenium, in Java, you will be using one method. You will be using one method. What is the method name? What is the method name? Get cell. You will be using one particular method that you will be taking with get cell. Get cell is one predefined method. Get cell is one predefined method available in Java. Functionality of get cell. Functionality of get cell to identify particular cell. Functionality of get cell to identify particular cell. Functionality of get cell to identify particular cell that will be taking with, that will be taking with get cell. But if we take Excel, is it we got only one particular cell? Is it we are having only one cell in the Excel? No, we got multiple cell. We got n number of cells are there. Now, because of that, which is cell need to identify, which is cell need to identify. We need to be get provided that which is cell need to be get identify, need to be get provide that particular respective cell. Okay. That you will be taking with, that you will be taking with, you need to be get provide this particular cell detail. Considering that column and then taking with row. In general, we need to go with row and column. But here, first you are providing column detail and then taking with row detail. Now we got get cell. What is the functionality of get cell? Functionality of get cell to identify particular cell. It is just taking care about. It is just taking care about in identifying particular cell. It is just taking care about in identifying particular cell. Once cell got identified, once cell got identified from this particular cell, we need to be get retrieve the data. From this particular cell, we need to be get retrieve the data. To retrieve the data from the cell, to retrieve the data from the cell, that will be taking with method name, that will be considering the get contents. One will be taking get cell to identify the cell, to retrieve the data from that particular cell. You will be taking with get contents. Once we got retrieve the data, that particular data you will assign to one particular variable. That particular data you will assign to one particular variable that you will be taking with employee ID. By that in the output, by that in the output you will be able to see. In the output you will be able to see that particular data is printing it. This is what we can go with reading the data. As simple as first you are taking get cell. Functionality of get cell, identifying particular cell. Functionality of get contents, retrieve the data from the particular cell. So that particular data we got assigning to the variable and then printing that particular variable. Okay. But according to programming, how you will get access for methods? How we can access the methods? How we can access the methods? By creating an object. By creating with the object, we can access the methods. At the same time, we need to be get access the class. How we can access the class? How we can access the class? By importing package. At the same time, how we can get access for package? How we can get access for package? Taking with jar files here. If you want to be get access for package, then you will be taking with jar files here. Either you are working Java, Selenium, followed with the same standards only. Now, while working Excel also need to be get followed with the same. While working with Excel also need to be get followed with the same. Considering that taking with, considering that in taking with get cell. What is the functionality of get cell? Identify particular cell. Then taking with get contents. Functionality of get contents, retrieve the data from particular cell. Now, For these two methods, okay, for these two methods, you will be taking with, for these two methods, you will be taking with the one particular class name. For these two methods, you will be taking with the one particular class name that you will be taking with sheet. Before taking with this particular class, this particular one, you will be taking with sheet. Before taking with this particular class name, you will be taking with one more option that you will be taking with workbook. Before going with workbook, before going with workbook, we will be taking with one more class name that we will be taking with file input stream. We will be taking with one more class name that we will be taking with file input stream. Now, if we understand this particular hierarchy in a very simple way, see the understanding. We got Excel. Can we consider Excel is one file? That is what I will say, right? Excel file. Excel is considered one file. The terminology itself, you are saying that Excel file. From that Excel file, you want to read the data. That is what you will be taking with the very first step. What is the first step we got? What is the first step we got? File input stream. The very first step he got file input stream. I mean, considering that you are recognizing the file. Once you got recognize that file, identify the file, you are taking with input. Input is read activity. You are reading the data from Excel. That you are mentioning that file input. From the file, you will be taking with workbook. From the file, you will be taking with workbook. Meaning of workbook? Having the multiple sheets here in the Excel. Able to see multiple sheets here? Right. Group of sheets, combination of sheets. What you will consider? What you will consider? Workbook. The meaning of workbook. Group of sheets, combination of sheets. Group of sheets, combination of sheets. You will be considering that workbook. So the meaning of workbook. The meaning of workbook, you will be considering that combination of sheets. This particular group of sheets, you will be considering that one particular workbook. See the understanding. See the understanding. In a very simple way, first you are taking with file. From the file, you are taking with workbook. Meaning of workbook? Group of sheets. From the workbook, you will be taking with sheet, which you will be taking with particular sheet. From the sheet, you will be taking with cell. From the cell, you will be taking with get contents. From the cell, you will be taking with get contents. This particular data assigned to one variable and then printing that particular variable. This is what the standards or the steps he followed to get read with the data from Excel. But all these are predefined methods, predefined classes, file input stream, one predefined class name, workbook, one predefined class name. Sheet, one predefined class name. To get access of all these things, to get access of all these things, we need to be take care about jar files. To get access of all these things, you need to be taking care about all these particular jar files. In that, in that, the one you will be taking with JXL dot jar. The one you will be taking with JXL dot jar. Similar to that, you got one more jar file that you will be taking with POI dot jar. We got two jar files here. We got two jar files. One is JXL dot jar. One is JXL dot jar. Another one POI dot jar. One is JXL jar file. Another one POI jar file. This particular JXL jar file, this particular JXL jar file, you will be working with extension of dot XLS. You will be working extension of dot XLS. I mean, if your Excel file, if the extension Excel file extension is dot XLS, then you will be taking with dot XLS. In case of POI, in case of POI dot XLSX, in case of POI dot XLSX, that means based on your Excel file, based on your Excel file, you need to understand what type of jar file need to be used. It based on your Excel file, you need to understand what type of jar file need to use it. If you want to be work with dot XLS, what is a jar file? JXL. To work with dot XLSX, what is a jar file? PY. But when you will get dot XLS and when you will get dot XLSX in your system, when you create Excel file, in general you will create Excel file. When you create Excel file, when you create Excel file, when you will be getting dot XLS and when you will get dot XLSX, that is, it depends on your version, depends on your MS Office version. In your system, if you are having MS Office version, in your system, if you are having MS Office version, that is lower version, considering that 97 to 2003, in your laptop, if you are having MS Office lower version 97 to 2003, then your Excel file extension you will get dot XLS. In case of greater version, in case of greater version, that is greater than 2003, greater than 2003, you will be taking with POI. Greater than 2003, you will be taking with POI. So as simple as if you are having lower version, then you will be taking with XLS. If you are having higher version, then you will be taking with POI. If you consider your laptops, if you consider your laptops, in your laptop, by default, you will have greater than 2003. For example, just will create Excel. What is option we are using? That Microsoft Office Excel. Just we are creating Excel file. Now let me cross check. Let me cross check extension. Let me cross check extension. I'm taking the properties. See the extension. What is extension you got? Dot XLS X. You got the extension. You got the extension dot XLS X because by default in your laptop greater than 2003 you will be having extension. What is extension you got? Dot XLS. In case of dot XLS X, what will be the jar file? What is a jar file? POI. But apart from POI, we got another jar file. What is another jar file? Taking with JXL. All these particular step, need to be followed. All these particular step need to be get followed in taking with JXL. All these particular step need to be get followed taking with JXL. Okay. Now you can see that. But we required lower version. How we can get? How we can get that lower version? To get lower version, first create one Excel. First Excel create cheyali. Create one Excel. This is latest version. This latest version you have to convert into lower version. For the practice purpose, if you want to practice JXL, if you want to practice JXL, this particular higher version, you have to convert into lower version. How you can do that? How you can do that? For that, first open the Excel. Just open the Excel and then go with the steps. What is the step? What is the step? Save as. You can go with the step save as. Now you can select the option. You can select the option. What is option? What is option? Excel 97 to 2003 to convert into lower version. To convert into lower version, you are taking with Excel 97 to 2003. That is what you will be taking with. That is what you will be taking with Excel 97 to 2003. Then click on save. Then click on save. It will create one more Excel. Now you can see you got one more Excel. This is higher version. This is lower version. You can cross check that. You can cross check that. What is the extension? What is the extension? Dot XLS. It is clearly saying that 97 to 2003. This is what you got an option in taking with higher version of the Excel and then lower version of the Excel. If you want to practice If you want to practice lower version of Excel, you need to be get convert. You need to be get convert into lower version, and then you need to be get start doing with the respective programming. So now we are already having lower version of Excel, having some data in the Excel. If we get just look into this, we got the data. We need to be get understand in writing the program of reading the data. We need to be get understand in writing the program of reading the data. Let's see that how exactly we can write that particular program. If you want to get write that program, you required jar file. What is the jar file required? What is the jar file required? JXL. You required only one jar file. You required only one particular jar file that will be taking with JXL jar file. You required one particular jar file that will be taking with JXL jar file. You need to be get, you need to be get go with one particular jar file that will be taking with JXL. Okay. Now you can see that which need to be get, which need to be get. I'm just providing that particular JXL jar file. This is just only one particular jar file need to be get provided in Google Classroom. You need to be get take care about adding that particular jar file. Adding the jar file, same steps will be followed. Adding the jar file, adding the jar file, the same steps it will be followed. Now, considering that, taking with right click and then taking with mentioning about build path. The same steps it will be followed to get add that particular jar file. It will take care about in following with the same steps only. Selenium jar file, Java jar file, any other jar file, any jar file, any jar file you want to add to the project, any jar file you want to add to the project, followed with the same steps only. Right. So now you can say that considering that taking with need to be get taking care about having with build path and then taking with configure build path that library start add external jar. What is a jar file? JXL. You will be taking with JXL. Once the jar file is available, once the jar file is available, then you will continue doing the programming. Programming, the same thing you will follow. That you will be taking with, they will be taking with, considering that creating the one class name that you will be taking with Excel read activity. You got created with class. We got created with class. And then taking with method, taking with method that will be taking with void, taking with main that will consider string, and then taking with aux that will consider we need to be go with in following with all the steps, but we are not writing any selenium. We are not worried about the Selenium. We are not writing any code related to Selenium. Everything you will be taking with your Java steps only. So according to our requirement, we need to be get followed with the steps. See the steps to be followed. First, what we are doing? File input stream. We are recognizing the file. Once we got identify the file. From the file, what we are using? Workbook. From the workbook, what we are using? Sheet. From the sheet, taking with get cell. From the get cell, taking with get contents, and then assigning to that variable and printing that particular respective variable. So this is what we got an option. This is what we got an option in taking with following with the step. The same thing will be followed. Writing the taking with file input stream. File input stream equal to new file input stream, and then we need to be get provide the path of Excel file. We need to be get provide path of Excel file. From which Excel file we need to read it? From which Excel file we need to read it? We need to be get provide. We need to be get provide path of Excel file. We need to be get provide the path including file name and extension. You need to be get provide including file name and extension that will be taking with file input stream. But giving an error, we need to be get import. We need to be get import that particular respective package. We need to be get import that particular respective package. Okay. But still we got an error. Another package. Okay. See that we are writing with the statement that will be taking with throws exception. The reason is, what is the statement you provided? What is the statement? File input stream. It is expecting one file. It is expecting one file to perform that input, to take read activity. You given the path, it will go to this path. It will search the file. File is available. Okay. If file is not available, what need to be done? It's need to get through exception. If file is not available or path is not correct, it's need to be get through exception. Because of that, you need to be get provided that particular throws exception. Okay. So one will be taking with file input stream. After that, what is the next one? Workbook, which you will be taking with workbook. That you will be taking with workbook dot taking with workbook dot, which you will be taking with get workbook from file. From the file you will be taking with workbook. After that, what is the next one? Taking with sheet, which you will be taking with sheet. That you will be taking workbook. Meaning of workbook? Group of sheets. So from the workbook, we are taking with sheet. If you are aware of that, what is the sheet name? If you are aware of that, what is that first from the
Recording
first
in
sheet,
progress.
it's need to be get read with the data. Okay. Now we got file. From the file you will be taking with workbook. From the workbook you will be taking with sheet. From the sheet, what you will use? Get cell. From the get cell, get content, and then assigning the data to one particular variable, taking with sheet dot using get cell. Functionality of get cell, functionality of get cell, to identify particular cell need to be get provide cell details that I will be taking with first column, and then need to be take with first row. We need to be get provide row details. We need to be get provide row detail. That particular row details, that particular row details I'm taking into one variable. First will understand, first will understand reading the data from one particular row. First will understand reading the data from one particular row. Then
Recording
taking
in
with
progress.
this particular row. So by that I can mention row dot dot using the method name that will be taking with get contents, reading with the data and printing it. For printing, taking with that particular respective employee ID. Similar to this, we need to take employee name and then email and then number. So we need to be take with name and then email and then taking with number. We need to be get provide. We need to be get provide taking with name and then taking with email and then taking with number. So we need to be get print. We need to be get print all that particular respective statement that you will be taking with name and then taking with email and then taking with number. To go with easy understanding, to go with easy understanding in between, I'm just taking with the statement to just have it easy understanding, to have a data in a correct way. I'm just adding this particular statement. Okay, done. Now we can see here. See the statement. See the statement. First we are taking with file. From the file, workbook. From the workbook, sheet. From the sheet, get cell. From the get cell, get contents, assigning to the variable and printing it. Now we can see. We need to be get able to see that reading the data from second row. Reading the data from second row. This is 0. This is 1. This is 2. That employee ID. What is employee ID? 102. That employee ID 102. That data need to be read. Let's see here. If I'm just taking with right click, taking with run as Java application. Now we can see you need to be get table. Why 102? Why name is not printing? So this is 1 and then 2 and then 3. Okay. Now we can see here. So we need to be get able to see that in reading the data of 102. Okay. Now assume that I want to go with third row. I want to go with taking with third row. This is 0 and then 1 and then 2 and then taking with 3. 103. That will be taking with retrieving with the data. That will be taking with 103. So this is what we got a possibility. This is what we got an option in taking care about retrieving with the data. We are able to retrieve the data from how many rows? No, from how many rows we are reading the data here? Only one row. This particular program reading with the data. This particular program reading with the data from one particular row. Similar to that, need to be get read with the data from. Similar to this, need to be get read with the data from all the rows here. We need to be get reading with the data from all the rows. What need to be done? If you want to read the data from all the rows, what need to be done? Jar file we are already done. As simple as you are reading the data from one row. Now the requirement is need to read the data from all the rows here. What you will do? Taking the help of loop concept. You have to perform same thing here. Reading the data from first row and then reading the data from second row. How many rows are available? Need to be get read with the data from all the rows here. So for that, as simple, you will be taking with the help of loop concept. Just need to be get taking with the help of loop. That particular loop I'm taking with for loop. That particular loop you will be taking with for loop here. So you will be taking with that particular respective for loop, which you will be taking with that particular respective for loop. Okay. Now you can see that considering that taking with the syntax of the for loop. What is the syntax? Initialization, condition, increment or decrement. So we'll be taking with initialization and then taking with condition and then taking with increment or decrement. That you will be taking with int I equal to 0. We need to go with 0 if you want to consider from very first row. If you want to consider from very first row, you need to start with 0. But my requirement, I doesn't require header. I doesn't require to print header. I want to print from this number 101. My requirement, I want to print from 101. Because of that, I'll get started from 1. Then taking with condition, taking with condition, considering that I less than. How many times the loop has to be continued? What you will mention? How many times the loop has to be continued? So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. How many times it has to continue? 4 times the loop has to be continued. But these are very small rows are there. We are counting manually. But more number of rows are there. We cannot count it manually. That means how many rows are there? How many rows are there? That many times the loop has to be continued. How many rows are there? That many times the loop has to be continued. That means we have to take care about in retrieving with row count. We need to retrieve row count here. I'm taking with row count equal to, I'm taking the sheet. From the sheet, I'm using method name. What is the method name? What is the method name? What is the method name? Get rows. We are using method name get rows. Functionality of get rows. It will retrieve row count here. It will retrieve row count. In the Excel, how many rows are there? In the Excel, how many rows are there? Need to be get taking care about that particular row count here. For the confirmation, printing with row count. For the confirmation, printing with that particular row count. That many times, the loop has to be continued. That many times, the loop has to be continued. Then you will be taking with I plus plus. You need to be get consider taking with I plus plus. I mean, in that particular sheet, how many rows are there? In that particular sheet, how many rows are there? That many times, it's need to be get continue the loop. That you will be taking with row count here. Okay. So here you will be taking with that particular row details. You will be taking with that particular row details. Confuse
Recording
here.
in progress.
Count will started from 1 only. count will be started from 1. We are not taking from 0. Don't be confused at all. You are performing read activity. While taking the read activity, it will go with the index with the 0 only. But whenever you are taking the count, whenever you are taking with the count will start from 1. So that it will be taking with 4. Then it will be taking with 101 and then taking with 102, 103. So this is what it will be taking care about in reading the data. This is what it will be taking care about in reading with the data from one particular row and then taking with all the rows here. So the requirement, according to the requirement, need to be get considering that reading with the data from one particular row and reading the data from all the rows here. This is what we got an option in working with Excel file, taking the read activity with the help of JXL. This is we are working with the help of JXL. Similar to this, what is another option we got? What is another option we got? POI. We got another option that will be taking with POI. Taking with POI dot jar. When you will work with POI dot jar? Dot XLSX. Taking with dot XLSX. So take with the heading. Just write with the heading. Take with the main heading is POI dot jar and then mention the dot XLSX. Take with the main heading mentioning dot POI taking with dot XLSX. Dot XLSX. Under that, write the description. Under that, write the description. Write the description. Reading the data from Excel. Reading the data from Excel. Reading the data from Excel. Okay. And writing the data to Excel. Reading the data to Excel and writing the data to Excel using POI jar file. Using POI jar file. Using POI jar file. This Excel, JXL, we done with only one jar file. POI, we need to go with 5 jar files. To work with the POI, we need to take 5 jar files. Just make a note of all these 5 jar file names. Just make a note of all the 5 jar file names. You need to download all the jar files individually and then need to add it to project. Just make a note of jar file names up to dot jar, not this path. E drive Selenium, that is not required. Just make a note of jar file names only. POI, DOM4J, POI double XML, POI this XML, XML beans. Just make a note of jar file names. All the online students also make a note of that particular jar file names. Just make a note of all that particular 5 jar file names. Online students also, just make a note of all that particular 5 jar file names. Okay, so you can try for downloading all these individual jar files here. Just each and every individual jar file one by one need to be downloaded and then need to be get added to the project. So once we got added to the project, then we need to be get continued in working with PY here. So that we'll look into that tomorrow. We'll try to complete this and then we'll take care about the program of screenshot, and then after that we'll be taking with drag and drop here. So those are the programs we have been pending. So just take care about in practicing of all the programs. Again, I'm saying that automation frameworks is the most important one. To learn that at any cost, you guys need to be get comfortable with all the syntaxes here. So please take care about the practice of all these things. Online students also, please take care about practice of all these things. Then it will become an easy to work with other frameworks. Okay, take care about the practice of this. Carry on. Thank you. Yes, guys. Online students, if you have any questions, you can carry on.
Hi
Hello,
Suresh.
sir. Good morning.
Yeah.
So Sheetal here. How to download